All right. So this is super exciting. I haven't streamed in a really long time, but I'm finally making it happen again. And we have some really, really exciting things happening today. So there are two things that I really want to happen today. The first is I'm going to give like a little discussion, demonstration, and I'm going to do, I guess, like kind of like a casual performance using this flute and ankle bell stuff that I've been doing on my YouTube. Um, I've been posting like shorts. I call it like the nature sessions, right? Where I'm sitting outside and I'm playing music with flute and ankle bells. And this is actually a very specific style that I've started working with. And I've been doing it for a couple of years, and I'm just now starting to feel comfortable actually recording it and posting it. So I wanted to talk about that process and what it means to me to sort of like work on a style of music that really isn't played all that much on the flute. Rarely will you see any sort of like ankle bells being played with the flute. I think it's really exciting to be doing something like that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to be sharing some of my compositions as well in this style. And I think you'll be surprised how little writing there actually is. It's mostly an improvised style of music. So, usually I'll only write about like 4 bars or 8 bars. Sometimes, like maximum, I might write about 16 bars or something. And everything after that is improvised. And so that's the first thing we're going to do. Probably won't be going on about that for more than an hour or so. And then I'm going to get into a live meditative flute recording, which I'm super excited about. I'm going to add some, gentle rain sounds. I'm going to add some drones. I'm going to experiment with a couple modes, a couple scales that I've been working on. I've been really, really diving into pentatonic scales recently, and not just like the common Western pentatonic scale, which is like, 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. But really looking at like a bunch of other styles of pentatonic scales that can create some really amazing sounds. So I'll talk a little bit about my process with doing all that kind of stuff as well, and then, do the recording. And also at the end, if I'm feeling up to it, I might share with you some recordings that aren't on my YouTube. If you've been seeing some of my videos recently, I've been posting sort of like meditative sleep tracks, and I absolutely love recording in this style. And I love editing and posting these videos because I actually personally use them myself. I think it's a really, really great way to relax. And that's really the main purpose of this music. But I record so many of these, I can't post all of them, or else all you'd see in your feed is, a bunch of these meditative flute tracks. And I don't want to overload, like with too many of these tracks. But if you caught the beginning of the stream, sort of like the stream starting page, that's an example of what I want to play for you. This is like something that'll probably be posted on my YouTube in like the next month or so, but using a bunch of different sounds. The background of it is actually a recording that I got when I was in Puerto Rico. I was just like standing outside listening to a bunch of like, I don't know, I guess like crickets and night birds and like all of these really cool sounds outside in Puerto Rico. And I was like, I need to record this and I need to put this into my music. So I took an audio recording. Then when I got back, I edited the audio and I made it sound kind of nice. And then I, put some flute over it. So if at the end I feel up to it, I'm gonna, like play a little recording of that as well. But let's get right into the rhythmic flute discussion. So I'm super excited about this whole project, and I hope to be posting nature session videos for as long as it is warm out. I do live on the East Coast in the US, and so I've got until about like October before it starts getting a little bit too cold to be bringing my flute out. But I wanted to share an example of how I write these tunes out. So this first one, it's a recording that was done by Francis Bebe, and I think it's like I just think it's a really cool piece, and it worked really well. Okay, so that's way too big. Let me size that down a little bit. I think it's a really, really cool piece. And I figured it would work so well in this style that I transcribed it and I wrote it out. And this is how I write out these pieces. At least like more recently, I always write by hand. I find this just to be a little bit easier for me. Um, I, I don't know. I mean, I know it's probably a lot faster using, some sort of software, but I like writing things by hand. What I like to tell myself is it teaches me patience. I think it also kind of infuriates me a little bit sometimes. It can be a little bit difficult to sit down and write something out and then, make one small mistake and be like, okay, now I got to write the whole thing again. But I guess it is a good practice in patience like that. And yeah, I mean, you will see in some of these compositions, I do mess up and sometimes I'll just like cross it out and continue writing because I didn't feel like doing the whole thing over again. But this one looks pretty clean. And what you see there is on the top is my flute part, and on the bottom is the ankle bell part. So this piece is, I only wrote out 4 bars, but it can be anywhere from like a minute long to 5-10 minutes if I really feel like it. And the way I like to do pieces like this is I start with whatever is written and I build from it. So sometimes I will do 4 measures of what is written, and then I'll do a little improvisation, and then I'll do the 4 measures that are written again, and I'll alternate between those 2 things. Sometimes I'll start with this and then I'll go somewhere completely different, and sometimes I'll just build off of this melody the whole time, right? So adding small things here and there. Now, I'm going to perform this one for you because I really, really like this one. And it's a great like warm-up piece for me. I really like playing this piece kind of like in the beginning of a session because it's fairly slow. It feels like it has a really nice groove. So yeah, I'm just going to demonstrate it for you, and then I'll talk about, what I do afterwards. Yeah, so that's how that one goes. It's a really, really fun piece to play, and honestly, it's not that hard in this style. I think it's a very beginner friendly piece to kind of like start thinking about flute and rhythm. Now, this is something that I think every flutist should experiment with, like kind of merging the ideas of your melodic sound and your rhythmic sound. A lot of times in classical music, you think of the flute as a melodic instrument because a lot of the times it really is just a melodic instrument. But there is so much opportunity for rhythm and percussion and like percussive sounds in the flute that I think a style like this can be really, really beneficial to just like opening people's minds up to the idea of using the flute as like a solo instrument, you know? Like, uh, well, I just really like this piece in general. Again, Francis Bebe, he's an incredible, incredible composer and musician. And this is just like a flute part from his music that I lifted up and I put into this short, small piece. And you can see how much you can do in this style. You know, like with just 4 measures written out. I chose to do this one where I was alternating between 4 measures of what's written and then 4 measures of, I guess, like embellishing what's written and then going back to just like what's written and then embellishing a little bit more, making sure that there is a little bit of a rise and then a fall. So like rising up in intensity and sort of like movement and then falling down as we come to like a close in the piece. I also started with my ankle bells, or without my ankle bells, brought the ankle bells in later, and then I ended without the ankle bells as well. This is like a little bit of like orchestration that I'm doing live, you know, trying to like, I guess, improvise a composition with just these 4 measures. So this one is really, really cool, but it's one that I feel pretty comfortable with, so I don't think I need to really like go through the practicing process. But I'd love to talk about the practicing process using another one of these pieces. So let's see here. I can get rid of this. And then I'm going to pull up another one of the pieces. I have like 8 or 9 here. Now, which one do I want to do? trying to think of one that isn't too difficult, because I do have quite a few hard ones here. Um, One that isn't super difficult, but is still like, manageable. Well, what about this one? Yeah, this one is really cool. Okay, I like this one. Again, very big. I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. Then we'll see what I can do with this one. So I've got all of my compositions right here as well. Some of these of course, most of them I have memorized. But some of these I've written a long time ago, and it's helpful to have a refresher. But you will notice that at a certain point, my eyes do drift down, and that's because at that point I have refreshed my memory, memorized the piece, and then I can kind of like move away from that. But this is one that it's kind of like a work in progress, which I really like. I love showing sort of like the process that I take with a piece like this, because right now I have the piece, right? It sounds pretty cool. But there's a lot that can be done with this, and it's up to me to figure out exactly what I want to do with it, right? So I'm going to play a little bit of it for you, and I'm going to show you some of the ways that I kind of come up with new ideas. Okay, so one of those ways is by just repeating the piece over and over again and adding small embellishments. If I make a mistake, just start over and keep going with it. And as I do that, if I do something that I like, I stick with it and I repeat it a bunch of times, try and get it into my memory, and then I move on. So you'll notice that throughout this kind of like practice session, I will be moving on from ideas kind of quickly, and that's my process of like, saying, okay, I didn't really love that idea. I'm gonna move on to a new one, see if I can find some ideas that I do like, and then sometimes you'll hear me stay on an idea for a really long time, and that doesn't necessarily mean that I like the idea, but it does mean that I think there might be something in there that I want to explore. So I'm gonna play through this piece a bunch of times, show you the process that I take with trying to come up with ways to interpret this piece. I think this one was inspired by a Zakir Hussain tablas solo. I feel like I remember that being the inspiration for this. It was like one of those things where I was listening to his playing and I was like, I need to write down this rhythm that I'm hearing. So I wrote down the rhythm. I composed a piece for it. It doesn't have a name. You can see on the top, it just says Will Fredendahl. So I know who the composer is, but I don't really have a name for it. If you come up with a name while I'm playing it, let me know. I'm sure something will come to mind. But for now, this is an unnamed, untitled original composition. So I'm going to get started playing it. And yeah. So this one is definitely a work that can take a little bit more work. I think it's a really cool idea, and I think there's a lot to it. The problem I have with this piece is it is very tough to build ideas, right? Because the tempo is kind of slow, and I ended up speeding up the tempo just a little bit towards the end. But this is a very fascinating piece. So I think I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this before I move on to something a little bit faster. It's funny, I do tend to have a little bit more trouble with the slower pieces, especially the ones that have a lot of space in the ankle bells. So that's something that I definitely want to keep working on. So I'm going to take another like 5-10 minutes or so and work through this piece, try and find something in it that I can enjoy playing, and see what it feels like to build a little bit on this piece. So like build in intensity, build in what I'm doing. I'm also going to try and play it a little bit faster. If I add a little bit of speed, I think it'll flow a little bit nicer. If I'm remembering, usually I would play this tune a little bit faster, but it's been a while since I've played this, so not exactly sure. So I'm going to try it again and see if I can find something that I enjoy in it. So I think I actually started finding something in this piece. It started to become really, really fun to play, and I think the switch for me was this piece requires a lot of confidence. So, kind of like, it's fairly low notes on the flute, right? So there's not a whole lot of volume, there's not a whole lot of intensity, but using like knowing that there's not a whole lot of intensity just in the way that the piece is written, adding some of that intensity through sort of like breath attacks and air sounds, that can be really, really helpful for something like this. And in the beginning, I remember I tried a different ankle bell pattern. Didn't work all that well. I think I like the pattern that's written for this piece. It adds this sort of like strange pulse to it, and I really, really like it. And I mentioned before that there will be some mistakes in the writing, and you can see there are 2 notes crossed out on this one. So this is the difficulty of writing with a fountain pen instead of doing it on the computer. I will at some point have to rewrite this one to make it look a little bit nicer, but this song is called Will Fredendall. No, it is not called Will Fredendall. So that is the composer, me. I'm the composer. Hi. And this is an unnamed piece. A lot of my pieces are unnamed because I have trouble naming pieces, I guess. And this one is, like all the other ones, unnamed. If you come up with a name for it, let me know. But someday it'll have a name once I figure it out. But this piece is, like completely unrecorded. So this is my first time sharing this piece, doing anything with it. Hopefully I'll get to play it a lot more in the future. But I want to move on to a different one, maybe one a little bit more up-tempo. And let's see. So I'll change it over here. Maybe this one. Okay, this is a fun one. Here we go. And this one showed up a normal size in the beginning, so that's good. I'll put this over here, and I think this song would be great for ensemble. I totally agree. If you missed what I said about that original the first piece that I was playing, it is a rhythm that I think I figured from an Indian classical musician, Zakir Hussain, and it was like just such a cool rhythm. And I decided to make a piece for it. But I do think it would sound really good with like a lot of percussion players, a couple flute players, a couple other instruments in there as well. Um, there's a lot of potential with this music, not just to be solo music, but to be music for a much larger group. And I think the cool thing about it is it's also just like they're such short tunes, you know, and none of them are very difficult, right? Um, some of them are kind of difficult, uh, but a lot of them aren't very difficult. And so using something like this and bringing it to like a session with a bunch of musicians, they can all read this pretty quickly, right? There wouldn't be a whole lot of difficulty reading this piece and then kind of figuring out on the spot what everyone is going to be doing. Um, there's a lot of potential for stuff like this. But this new piece, another untitled, or you could say it's titled Will Fredendall. It's an untitled piece, so if you think of a title for it, type it in the chat. Let me know. But I'm gonna just like do a little bit of a like kind of the same thing, experimenting with this piece. I haven't played this one in a little bit, so just experimenting with it, seeing what I can do with it, and then maybe at the end I'll try a like real full performance with it. So you're gonna hear a little bit of repetition of some parts. Sometimes I'm gonna move on from an idea really quickly. Usually that means I didn't think it was a great idea. But this is sort of the practice process that I use when I'm looking at a piece like this. So I'm gonna get started with this piece right now. And again, if you think of a title, let me know, because I'm so bad at titling these pieces. Yeah, I love that piece. It is so much fun to play. And it's a little bit harder than the other one, so I've spent a little bit more time practicing this one, especially more recently. I think I did record this one recently on my YouTube. I think I posted a short somewhere out in nature playing this one. So clean, thank you. Um, yeah, so help me write a name for this piece, because like there's got to be a good name, right? That was so merry. Thank you. Yeah, I really like this piece. I think there's a lot of potential for it. I was like mixing between playing the actual composition and then just like improvising around a little bit, like adding embellishments to the composition, sometimes taking away from it. But yeah, it's a really fun piece. Let's see, are you playing that octave below? I hear. Are you singing that? Everything in here is what I'm doing on the flute, but I do have some compositions where I do both singing and playing. I love doing that style, and there's actually quite a few videos that I have on my YouTube channel that have like some singing and playing stuff using like a contact microphone on my throat to pick up the singing voice. But yeah, that's all flute. It can be kind of difficult sometimes to move from like different octaves. There's like generally 3 octaves on the flute, and moving between all of those 3 octaves can be a little bit difficult. And speaking of, I want to try. I think the hardest piece that I've ever composed, and the difficult part about this piece is it doesn't seem difficult, right? Like looking at the page, it doesn't seem difficult at all. But I composed this, like, I think it was one of the first pieces that I composed for flute and ankle bell. And it's just so hard. I've been spending I've spent quite a bit of time on it, and I can't really figure it out. So I'm going to do like a little practice session here with that piece. So I'm going to get rid of this one and then pull this one up. It is a more, there's a lot more to this piece. Oh, that's a little too big. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. Now, it's a really fun piece to play. But yeah, it's just hard, just a difficult piece. So let's see. Yeah, I composed this a while back, and I've been trying to figure it out ever since. But I'm going to show you like a little bit about it. I'll probably play it for a little bit and then talk about what I see as the difficulties of this piece, because on paper, it's not that difficult. I guess the main thing that you can see in the composition itself is that there are a lot of big interval leaps. I think the biggest interval leap is 2 octaves. it's very helpful to see it side by side. Yeah, I figured out how to do this today. So I'm glad I could figure it out for stream, and I'm glad it's helpful to see. Um, and it's hard for me because I do handwrite all of these, so the process is like taking a picture of it and then editing the picture to make it look somewhat decent on stream. So I'm glad it's helpful. But yeah, I'm gonna give this piece a try. The basic idea is I have the introduction, and then I have an A section and a B section. Then I have like a small improvisation interlude. And I start with the introduction. Once I play the introduction a couple times, it never really comes back, probably until the end. And then I alternate between the A section, the B section, and the improvisation section. And just kind of like see where it goes. So I'm going to practice a little bit with it, mess around with it. I might repeat a couple things a couple times, see how it goes. And then I'm going to talk about it and see if I can, take a better take of this. But yeah, we'll see. I'm sure you'll be able to hear the difficulty in this piece, mostly the massive, massive interval leaps, but I think it's important for the style of the piece. So let's see how I do. Yeah, so this piece is just like brutally hard. And I think part of it also is stamina. This piece takes a lot of stamina because there's not a whole lot of places that you can breathe. My goal is to create a bunch of different parts. I can imagine this piece as an a cappella duet between a soprano and an alto. That's actually really cool that you say that, because my goal was to basically have two parts happening here, right, in the flute. And yeah, that can be pretty difficult. It really like tires you out. I mean, like I'm pretty much out of breath at the end of that. I think I was only playing for like 3 or 4 minutes. So this is the kind of piece that if I'm going to perform this live, I need to do like actual stamina training to be able to play this piece. Because if you look at the composition itself, there's right at the end of the A section, there's 2 notes in parentheses, and those parentheses mean that the second time I don't play it. And the reason why I don't play it the second time, I'd love to play it the second time, but the reason why I don't play it the second time is because I have 0 breath by the time I get to the end of 2 A sections, so I need to take a breath. And then in the B section, there's just that one small 8th note rest that I can breathe in. But that happens every time I go through the B section. So I can get a small breath in there. But the problem is, every once in a while, I'll miss it, right? And if I miss the breath, then I am, I'm screwed, right? So I'm going to start like losing more and more air as I go on, getting more and more tired. And then once I get into the improvisation section, it's kind of like all bets are off with how I'm going to be able to get a breath in. And something that I realized sort of going through this is I don't know if that improvisation section works that well with this piece. Not to say that I won't improvise, but I think the beautiful part about improvisation in this piece specifically is the transition between the B root and the C sharp root. Like that sort of difference is really, really special because all of the notes on top of it stay the same. But that change from B to C sharp makes this really, really huge difference. And it sounds really, really cool. And that improvisation section does have it. But I think in the improvisation, I want to emphasize the B root and the C sharp root low in the flute. And this doesn't really do it that well. Or rather, it doesn't do it in a way where I can kind of expand on it and do more with it. So maybe don't breathe so much. I'm trying. It would be awesome if I just had like double lung capacity and I didn't have to breathe so much. But it's really, really difficult here. So I'm going to try this one again because I really, really like playing this one. It's so fun to play. And I'm going to ignore the improvisation section and do it the way that I kind of ended up doing it in the end, where I just emphasized B root and C sharp root. And maybe that section will become its own piece, because I think it does have like a really strong potential for being something. Maybe it'll become an A section or a B section to another piece. I don't think it serves that much of a purpose in this piece. So I'm going to try this again. Take a drink of water before, maybe take a few deep breaths so I can get prepared to maybe play it for a little bit longer than a couple minutes. But yeah. Yeah, okay, that worked a little bit better. I just like consciously focused on the places where I could find a breath. Um, and it really did work. Like really focusing on even when I don't feel like I need to take a breath, making sure that in any space that I can find a breath, I take that breath and get myself, even if I'm only at like 3/4 tank, bring myself up to 100% so that I can keep going, and maybe I'll need it in the future. There's no reason not to take a breath. That was even better. Thank you so much. I thought it sounded a little bit better than the first time. I think also I was focusing, or I had more opportunity, more brain power to focus on sort of making it a composition. I think taking out the improvisation section definitely helps with that. It makes the piece a little bit simpler, and I'm all about writing a simple piece and finding the complexity in it through improvisation. So I did like a really standard, A, B improvisation, A, B form, right? So I alternated between the A section and the B section a bunch of times. Then I took an improvisation focusing on the bass B and C sharp. Then I came back to the A section and the B section, just like alternating between them pretty casually, slowly building up air so that I'm not super out of breath when I put my flute down and I start talking. So this one, I think it's starting to sound better. It's only taken me like 2 years, but it's starting to sound a little bit better. I think the groove can definitely be improved. But groove is one of those things where like you spend decades on it, and it really just takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of practice, a lot of dedication. So I'm not quite there yet with groove for this piece, but I think every day I get a little bit closer. And yeah, I'm excited to kind of like see where this piece goes. It really, I don't know. It's just a cool piece. It's just a really cool piece. I'm surprised that I wrote it so early in my flute and ankle bells journey. It was like one of the first pieces that I had written for flute and ankle bells, based partially on the mbira, and like rhythms with that, and hearing like a bunch of different octaves happening at once. That was a big inspiration for this piece. But I'm gonna switch it up to another piece. Not exactly sure which one though. We've done a couple of them, and I think I remember all the ones that we've done. I don't think I would forget. But who knows? I think this one. Yeah, why not do this one? And I don't want to forget. I do have. I have another. Oh, that's a little too big. It's gonna block my face. I have a couple pieces that are like not written, that I kind of want to perform. So don't let me forget about those. There is a good chance that I forget about those because I have the memory of a goldfish. But okay, that's better. Yeah, this piece is fast. So this is quite a bit faster than anything that I've done so far. We've been in like the 9/8/6/8 territory. I'm bringing us back to 4/4. This one is so fun to play, and I definitely think that playing this with a larger ensemble would be really, really cool. It could be really beneficial. I think I can play this. I wouldn't be surprised. It's not a very hard piece on paper. It's a bunch of quarter notes and a dotted quarter note. I threw an eighth rest in there to throw you off, but yeah, it's not that hard of a piece. But I will show you that it can become pretty difficult and pretty exciting, just from a little bit of improvisation added to these 4 measures. And that's the goal with this kind of music. It's to make it seem as simple as possible and to write something that is pretty simple and pretty easy for people to pick up in the beginning, but that also has a lot of complexity in it that can be, like taken to like crazy limits of expression. So I'm going to pull this one up just so I can think a little bit clearer about it. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so I'm going to try this one and see how it goes. I think I'm going to just try and play it, and I might end up at some point starting to practice it a little bit, move in and out of performing and practicing, the way I kind of do with this style. And yeah, let's see if I can find 240 beats per minute. For anyone who has perfect meter, perfect metronome brain, I guess. If I'm off of 240, don't make fun of me. Yeah, so a piece that seems really, really simple can get pretty exciting by the end. Um, and all it takes is just a little bit of improvisation, a little bit of, I don't know, just like coming up with new ideas, you know? And everything that I did was generally in this four measure format, you know? Like each of my ideas, none of them exceeded four measures, I don't think. And if they did, then they ended up being eight measures. But yeah, a piece like this is really fun because it does start so simply. And it's a really easy piece to build. You know, like bring it from really, really small and bring it up really, really big, and then drop down quite a bit at the end as well. Uh, that kind of arc is really cool in this style. And I think this piece works really well for that. This is one that I've been playing for a couple months at this point, I think. Or at least I composed it a couple months ago. And I think I have also posted this one. But yeah, I really like this one. I think maybe I'll do one more of these before I take a quick intermission. But let's see. Oh, you know what? I did say that I would play one that I don't have written down. I remembered. Okay, so um, let's see. Let's see. Well, let's see if I remember the piece. A lot of the times I will write pieces for this style and I won't write them down for like sometimes years. And it'll be sitting in like a voice memo, or it'll just be sitting in my brain, in my memory, and I won't write it down because it does take quite a while to write these pieces down because I do write all of these by hand. It's a blessing and a curse, I guess. But let's see. Yeah, this is one probably around the same era as that harder piece with a bunch of the like 2 octave leaps. I wrote it around that era, so like really far in the beginning of this style. And I've never written it down. It's evolved in a bunch of different ways, but yeah, let's see if I can perform it for you today. So that's a really fun one. It is a little bit hard sometimes to match up the flute and the ankle bells in this piece. I think because it is kind of like rhythmically, uh, well, I don't want to say complex because it's not really that rhythmically complex. I guess it's just the speed that makes it a little bit more difficult to manage with flute and ankle bells. But it's still a really fun piece. I think I'm gonna take one more go at it and see. Maybe I'll do it a little bit slower. But I want to see if I can go a little bit further with this. Move more into the improvisational realm. Maybe add a new section to this piece since it isn't written down. It isn't composed through composed in any way. I can just add pieces like sections to it. So maybe I'll add a couple sections to it. I'll do some stuff with it and have fun with it. And then after that, I'm gonna take an intermission and I'm gonna get going with a completely different style of music. Probably for another hour or so. But this is probably going to be the last flute and ankle bells piece that I'm going to be doing tonight. So get your fix now. All right. So, unless anyone has any last minute questions about the rhythmic flute, I'm probably going to close it out here. I think it would be really fun to do some streams in the future where I, like, instead of being kind of like a discussion and casual, like, performance slash practice, it'd be cool to show you, like, a full practice session working on these tunes. Because a full practice session does look quite a bit different from what I just did here. This was more like a discovery session, if that makes any sense. Taking these pieces and trying to see if there's anything in them that I haven't found yet. seeing if I want to add sections to them, searching for like creative ways that I can improvise with them. That's what something like this is for. But there is like a lot more that I can do in just like a full practice session, maybe 2 or 3 hours working through these pieces, maybe even showing you the process of creating one of these pieces. Usually I let these come up organically where like, I'm improvising, just like playing around, messing around, then all of a sudden something strikes, and I take that small thing that struck and then I do it a bunch of times, try and figure out exactly what I'm trying to, say with it. And then I write it down, like 2 to 6 months later, sometimes a year later, and then I name it. Well, I haven't named very many of these, so maybe name it anywhere from like a year to, I don't know, a decade later. We'll see. Again, if you have any suggestions for names for any of these pieces, let me know in the comments, because I definitely need some suggestions for names for these pieces. I think they all have like a very distinct style to them. And so coming up with a name wouldn't be difficult. It would just take sitting down and listening to it a bunch of times, trying to figure out exactly what it's saying. But I am going to take a quick intermission, get some water, get some rest. And when I come back, I'm going to be doing the second part of this stream. It's like a live meditating flutist recording. So the meditating flutist is a style of music that I love to play, where I take a mode or a scale. In this case, I'm probably going to be experimenting with some pentatonic scales. Not like pentatonic in the, I guess, like Western sense of 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6, but the pentatonic scale, thinking of like 5 notes at a time, basically. And those 5 notes can be any 5 notes, but I'll be playing with a B drone, and I'll probably put on some rain sounds as well, just because why not? We're doing a meditating flutist stream, might as well add some rain sounds to it. I think it'll be really fun, so definitely stick around for that. During the intermission, I'm going to play some audio from a track that I haven't released on my YouTube ever before. It's something that will probably be released in like a month or so once I'm fully finished with it, but this is kind of like a rough draft. So if you're interested, stick around for the intermission, listen to the rough draft piece, and I'll see you in about like 5-10 minutes once I get everything set up. I am back. I have switched gears here, and I am going to be doing. I guess I'll give you like a little bit of insight into how I record for the meditating flutist. It's a really fun process. I actually find a lot of. I just find a lot of joy in doing music like this. I think that's one of the great things about music. One of the things that you should kind of prioritize when you're playing music is, finding some sort of joy from it sometimes, Not always. Music isn't all about joy, but a lot of it is about joy. And so the process that I use when I'm doing something like this is I like to start with an idea. And that idea usually comes from a little bit of improvisation. Once I find that idea, I improvise with that idea, and then I stop. And I think about it, and I let the idea kind of like, I guess ruminate is a good word. I don't know. I let it kind of like sit in my brain and try and think about all of the ways that I could build that idea. Sometimes I like to use poems to inspire myself. Sometimes I like to use visual arts to inspire myself, to create some sort of story with this idea. But the general thought behind this style is I start with a scale, and I start with a bass of, some sort of drone. In this case, it's going to be a B drone with rain sounds. And then I build on whatever idea I'm working with. I think to start, I came up with an idea a couple days ago, and I wanted to try it. It's a pentatonic scale that starts on D flat, and it's D flat, D, F sharp, G, and B. And that scale over a B drone, I think is going to sound really, really cool. I haven't tried it yet, but I'm going to show you the full process of recording something like this, where I sit and I allow myself to make weird sounds, to make maybe bad sounds, until I find the style that I want to use this scale in, until I find the idea that I want to kind of build an improvisation based on. And once I find that idea, I'm going to pause for a second. I'm going to let myself think, listen to the drone, and then I'll try and play that idea as realistically and as beautifully as possible. So I'm going to get this started. I'm going to set the drone to playing. I hope I did this correctly. It's been a while since I streamed, so if there are any bugs, or anything like that, definitely let me know. But this should work. So we should be hearing a drone and some rain sounds right now. And I guess I do want to change my flute tone just a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, hold on just a second. Oh. Okay, I'm almost there. Okay, so I think that's the sound that I'm gonna be going for. Um, and now I'm just gonna let myself sit and think about that sound for a bit and see what happens. So, yeah, I think this is gonna be fun. And again, if you hear any like audio issues, if something isn't sounding right, let me know, and I'll try and fix it as fast as possible. If for some reason something is too loud or too soft, I do have control over those kinds of things, so I can fix it. But yeah, I'm gonna start with this and see where this sound goes. I think it's a really, really cool sound with this drone. Oh no, it looks like I've lost my camera. Okay, I'm gonna do a quick intermission and see if I can figure this out. All right, sorry for those technical difficulties. Um, but I am back, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a piece that I have not shown yet on YouTube. I'm super excited to share this piece for you. And I'm just going to see how it goes. So I'm going to put it on, put a like video on while the piece is playing. I'm going to play it for like, I don't know, maybe like 25, 30 minutes. And then I'm going to, I guess, end stream after that. But this is probably the last time you're going to hear from me tonight. So thank you so much for coming to the stream. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to do a lot more of this in the future. Hopefully there will be less technical difficulties. I'm going to work on my streaming, just like setup and everything to make it a little bit more streamlined. But this was super fun. So I'm going to put the track on, and I hope you enjoy this never before seen track on my YouTube.